Hi there, I'm Sean Bindley and this is Between the Lines. My guest on the program today is Stephen Dale. I've got a copy of Steve's book here. It's called Bouncing Back When You Hit Rock Bottom. A couple of weeks ago I had a call from a friend of ours, a person who watches the show, and said you really need to get Stephen Dale on the program and let him tell his story. Stephen, g'day. Thanks for taking the time to come on the show.
Thank you.
Tell me about the Stephen Dale story. I mean, there's a lot of ground that we're going to try and cover in this half an hour. Your book, Bouncing Back When You Hit Rock Bottom, is about your recovery from a catastrophic injury that you suffered when you were 21,
yes.
around about the time of your 21st birthday. Paint the picture.
I was living in Melbourne. I had sort of run away from Brisbane, I guess, running away from who it was that I'd become and all those issues that we go through in the teenage years. But with bullying, etc., my self-esteem was very low, and I was looking for something that basically said, this is you can do this is okay. Saw an opportunity and I went down to Sydney after a little while in Sydney.
This was around about the time of Expo 88?
This was, Expo 88 actually, was where all this started. Yep. So I was 20 when Expo started. And
a good time to be 20.
Down there, look, it was the greatest time of my life, but that's by the by. Yeah, great time, met a lot of people, found a lot of opportunities, and somebody invited me to go down to Sydney and do some work. So I went down to Sydney and hoped that by the time I got to Sydney, all the issues, all the things were holding me down, basically, or so I like to think, in Brisbane, would all be rectified. I thought that if I changed my state, changed my postcode, problems will leave.
Start life a new beginning.
Yeah, just the thought of a 20-year-old thinking, you know, if I go somewhere else and start again, I'll make sure I do a better job this time. Yeah. And if I have to tell a few lies about my past to these new people in Sydney, then so be it. And I sort of, within a very short period of time, I was falling back into the lifestyle that I had attempted to escape in Brisbane. And one thing led to another, and it became very obvious that the best thing for me to do was to leave Sydney. So I went to Melbourne with the same thought process. I was obviously a very slow learner, and thought that if I moved down to Melbourne, I can't be so unlucky that I bum out in 3 cities in a row. Surely not. Because I just like to think that it was due to bad luck, and I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Didn't like to take any responsibility for it, and got down to Melbourne and wasn't in Melbourne for very long when those same demons came back up to surface, and I thought, well, I can continue doing what I've always done, and that is to quit and run away, or I can face up to it. And of course I chose the former, and I went down to Tassie, running out of land, and I wasn't dressed appropriately to go any further south, but I went around Tassie and I tried to find something to do, but I was starting to realise that, you know, I'm just bad luck. Everywhere I go there's bad people, there's bad this, there's bad that. This is all wrong. And after a little while in Tassie and hoping to find some trouble, because I like trouble, and I couldn't find any in Tassie, all these beautiful, lovely Tasmanians. And I thought, I just feel ill at ease with this. So I came back to Melbourne, went back up the other side of Melbourne, and was trying to get my life together. You know, obviously, as I said before, slow learner. But I thought that if I get back to Melbourne, I can try again. And one thing led to another, which led for me to go down to Phillip Island with 2 guys who I'd known for a very short period of time.
For a day out, bit of a laugh?
Just for a day out. I think they were hoping that if they broke my routine, that I would give myself a bit of an opportunity, because I was drinking very heavily. I was doing a lot of things that I was very much on the road to destruction. Yeah. And these 2 guys, really nice guys, Robin and Dave, great guys actually, and they just said, well, let's go down to Phillip Island and do some fishing and have a bit of fun. So we went down to Phillip Island. I found myself in the pub mid-morning, as was my way, and we went back to Phillip Island after a couple of drinks and a meal, and ended up on a beach, and I decided to climb a cliff.
It's always something, watch this, look out.
Well, that was part and parcel of the way that I attempted to portray myself to other people. I always like to attempt to portray myself as somebody who would run the risk, who would take his life into his own hands, all this sort of business.
Have people talking about you.
Yeah, because I learned that at high school, is that if I have that attitude, people will laugh at me, which is better than being hit or picked on or whatever they decided to do. So it was an easy choice for me at high school, and that was a habit for my for my safety at high school. But it started off as a habit at high school, but by the time I was 20, 21, it was a lifestyle. That was the way that I lived. That was the way that I acted, and I guess I had put myself on a path for a long period of time, and the day that I arrived at Phillip Island was the day that I arrived at the end of the path.
So what happened that day?
To paint the picture, I was over the limit alcohol-wise. We went down to the beach. It was a beach at the base of a very steep cliff, and it wasn't a beach with sand. It was a beach with rocks and boulders. And one of the guys found a faded Fanta can. I actually remember this, and found a faded Fanta can and propped it up on some rocks, and we each grabbed a big boulder, trying to prove who's the biggest and strongest of all of us to shot put the rock on top of this can. And I don't remember any more than starting it. I actually can remember starting it, but I decided that I was going to climb the cliff because that's just what I do.
Yeah.
And to
Look
paint
out. Check me out again.
Exactly. See, I can do this, I'm strong, and everybody's saying, look, that's just ridiculous. Taking into consideration that I had no tread on my shoes because I just hitchhiked around Tasmania, and I've been wearing those shoes for quite a few months now. In my eastern seaboard trek, the cliff faced west, so the sun hadn't quite gotten over to it, so it was still cold and fairly dark. The cliff faced the ocean spray, so it was wet. All of those things were just perfect for me to say, well, I'm going to climb this anyway. And it didn't really work. Of all the laws that I like to break, you never can break the law of gravity. That's one thing that we've got to respect.
Now, we should mention the fact that most of what you're recalling here has been recounted to you by the people that were with you.
Yes, I do remember that Fanta can situation. I do remember a lot of my life up until that point. I don't actually remember deciding to climb the cliff. I obviously don't remember climbing the cliff, and I don't remember falling off the cliff.
You're watching Between the Lines. My guest on the program this evening is Stephen Dale. We'll be back with more after the break.